Hello, I'm Rory's photographer and welcome to Milan, and here we'll be exhibiting Soldati della Repubblica for the first time.
Il primo autore che ho il piacere di presentarvi è Mr. Rory, fotografo ritrattista che vanta tra i suoi scatti esponenti della famiglia reale britannica, illustri personalità d'oltremanica e numerose celebrità di Hollywood. Con il progetto Soldati della Repubblica. Grazie.
Ladies and gentlemen, honoured guests, apologies for my lack of Italian. I can direct you in Italian in photographic terms, faccia seria, etc., etc. But unfortunately, my Italian is limited. But thank you for coming. Welcome to Palazzo Cusani. And thank you for taking the time. Some of you have seen the exhibition yesterday, and if you haven't seen it today, please come along and have a look, and I'll be glad to show you the project in its entirety. With the centenary of the First World War, this project couldn't have come at a better time. Many of the traditions that you see and the uniforms that you see, they reflect the traditions of the Italian army stretching back to its beginnings in 1858. Now, please allow me to introduce myself as Colonel Solenzi did. I'm Rory, a fine art portrait photographer. I photographed many of the world's most recognised faces for 14 years, everyone from Sir Patrick Stewart to Sir Ian McKellen. And also royalty, and of course Mr. Brexit himself, David Cameron, who's been one of my former clients. Before I begin to talk about the project, I'd like to thank just a few people. I'd like to thank Brigadier Gagliano in London, who basically enabled me to organise this project in full. I'd also like to thank the communications team here in Milan, in Rome, who've done a wonderful job, Colonel Solenzi, Colonel Galeni, and for coordinating the project sittings. I'd also like to thank the 278 Italian soldiers who actually sat for the project. It was a real honour to work with them and capture their portraits. Now, before I continue, I'm going to basically just go through a previous project that I've just completed with the British Army. Back in 2017, I was coming to the end of another project entitled Soldiery. For a period of 2 years, I captured portraits of British Army soldiers, British Army personnel, and the project was exhibited at the National Army Museum in London. I'm going to take you behind the scenes now with a video of the project, the first video which the gentleman will pop on with photography. try and capture history, tradition, modernity, all these different things emulate from an army. An army which basically stems over 300 years, and that's what I try and capture. Soldati della Repubblica was an idea of mine for quite some time. I wanted to follow on from the British Army project and capture another historical organisation. The Italian Army, like the British Army, boasts an amazing tradition, an extreme pride in the regiment, and it was an exciting prospect to capture and follow on from soldiery to capture portraits of regiments whose lineage dates back to 1659. I began by writing to the Italian consulate in London, and I wrestled the bureaucratic beast and managed to organise the project and put everything into place, and we photographed it over a 6-month period across Italy. Now, 9 regiments so far have sat for the project. This will test your regimental crest knowledge if you're looking at it, but everyone from the Lancieri di Montebello, Sardinian Grenadiers, we basically went on and on across Italy from Milano to Trapani to Cosenza to everywhere, capturing these wonderful, wonderful regiments and wonderful traditions. And many of them are sitting here today, and thank you for coming. My first portrait sittings took place with the Sardinian Grenadiers at the historic Fort della Pietralata. Is that right?
Pietralata.
Oh, grazie. There we go. My Italian's improving. And I was presented with over 20 officers and soldiers of the regiment. It was remarkable to see traditions dating back to 1659 still observed today. So when we viewed the pictures, each soldier was towering over me, a very tall gentleman. Now, the regiment, as you know, dates back 300 years, and it has a high reputation in numerous battlefields, numerous wars. As you know, the 1st Regiment was founded in 1659 by Duke Carlo Emanuel II, so forgive me, of Savoy. Now, their motto, "Guards to me," echoed when I was photographing them, and I'm going to show you another video, so we're going to have a look at the video 2. That was a wonderful day. We had a great deal of soldiers from the regiment, again capturing this wonderful history, this wonderful tradition of the Italian army. Now, during the 6-month period, as I mentioned, 278 Italian soldiers sat for the project. Now, it is impossible to look at these portraits without realizing that you are viewing living history. The Italian army is a very historical organization. This has led to an eclectic mixture of proud battle honors, traditions, uniforms, and a highly unique organization. This project became, in essence, what I wanted it to become. a record of the Italian army in the 21st century, the face of the Italian army. Modern, diverse, changing, and it was an amazing privilege for myself. I'm very pleased to preview the project for the first time on Italian soil. These pictures have not been seen anywhere else. So you are the first people to view these pictures, the first people to give me your opinions of what you think of the work, and it's an honor. I hope to take this project to Rome in 2019. I hope to expand it, to grow it, and I'm hoping to gain support for that purpose over the next couple of months. As I mentioned, I've been privileged to combine my passion for military, for history, and I discovered that Soldati della Repubblica was the first project of its kind. For many, many years, nobody has done this. Nobody has visited the Italian army and captured portraits like this, recording the army. Painters would do it many, many centuries ago. I have lithographs at home of paintings of soldiers from the Napoleonic Wars. Nobody has done this in the modern period. And now I'd like to talk about just a few of the influences and inspirations behind many of my style of photography, how I create images. And throughout history, military portraiture has been used to solidify victories, to show heroism, heroic figures. Napoleon, for instance, basically he used portraiture as a propaganda tool to promote his achievements, his victories, his defeats, all these different things. Now, modern military portraiture shouldn't reflect victories or engraving or solidification. It should be emotionless. My portraits portray no good, no bad, no joy, no happiness, just very plain, static objects. My sitters are neutral. So they kind of give you a more historical record of the sitter. If I was to photograph a very notorious person, I would photograph them in a very plain way. It's for history to judge them, for history to view them. And if you photograph them in this plain, neutral style, it's the best way to capture a historical source. This allows the viewer objectivity. So concurrently sits along this the essence of the soldier. To me, it's all about duty, honor, tradition, professionalism, and these are the things that I want to relay in the portraits. Modern day portraiture should give the viewer a contemporary reflection of days gone by, but it also should give people a reflection of today's soldier. From here, the photographer can create a timeless embodiment of the solemnity of the sitter. Now, back in my history student days, my degree is in history, I found myself asking questions about the core essence of a portrait. What motivated the artist? Did the sitter approve of the portrait? Did they like or dislike the portrait? Was the portrait politically driven? All these questions kind of, probe my mind. Now, to create military portraiture, I like to delve into the works of Italian Renaissance artists, mainly like Caravaggio, Titian, and all these wonderful Italian artists. However, in this instance, I looked at George Dahl, who was a British artist, who I find a great deal of inspiration. George Dahl captured portraits of 342 Russian generals during the Napoleonic War, painted them. So that's on average around about one every 3 weeks. So in his lifetime, painting portraits. You will see much of George Dahl's inspiration in the work. When you look at the portraits, you will see there are similar expressions, similar styles. Now, this is a very important portrait, painted by Titian in 1548 of Charles V at the Battle of Mulberg. Now, if you look at the picture, you will see that Charles V is portrayed as this leader, commander of the land, the sea, the air. All these things are evoked in the portrait. Now, how is this relevant? You're showing me pictures from 350 years ago. Well, it's very relevant. This was the portraiture at its time. How did this apply? Well, my portrait of a Capitano in the Lancieri di Montebello echoes Titian. So instead of the lance pointed forwards, like a conqueror, the Capitano has his sword pointed backwards, at riposo, in a defensive style, in a way of peace rather than conqueror. So it's a totally different sort of style of portraiture. Also, the sitter is female. It's showing the change, diversity of the Italian army, that women are taking more of a role every day in the army, and it's just it evokes a new style of portraiture. I opted for a very low angle to give the Capitano a height, tall sense of being a soldier, and it's one of my favourite portraits from the city. Now, throughout the exhibition, I'm not sure about the Italian translation of this, but one can see innocent eagerness. So if you look at the younger soldiers, like the young lady on the right, you will see she has this innocent eagerness, this wanting for action to go and actually to go out there and do great things. Where if you look at the older soldier, you see there's this sort of measured, circumspect look, this caution. So you can almost see it in the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. And capturing the younger soldier and the older soldier, you see an amazing comparison. Now, soldiers often take pride in the regiment. Throughout the project, I wanted to capture this unique tradition across all the sittings. I had the objective of photographing soldiers collectively in groups, showing their uniform, the regimental badge, and the tradition of each detachment. I would just like to touch on 3 regiments from the... There are many that I've photographed, 9, but I won't have time to go through all 9 today, so I'm just going to touch on 3. One of my second sitting was with the Lancieri di Montebello, which took place in Rome. Now, similar to the Household Cavalry, which I photographed, the Queen's Guard in England, they have as you know, they have mechanized squadrons, and they also have traditional ceremonial equestrian squadrons. It was a great opportunity to capture both sides of the regiment, both modern and traditional. And we have video number 3, the gentleman there at the back, the third video, which will take you behind the scenes with the Lancieri di Montebello. I was lucky to encounter the Bersaglieri. I found 2 regiments I had to photograph, the 1st Bersaglieri and the 6th Bersaglieri in Cosenza and Trapani. Absolutely amazing soldiers. If I was in a very sticky situation, I would want to be next to a Bersaglieri. Very tough soldiers. Now, in English, Bersaglieri means marksman. And I photographed in England the rifle regiment, who the Bersaglieri are very similar to. They have a similar march. In England we have quick time. The Bersaglieri, they have their own version of quick time. And it was wonderful. Now, during the First World War, it was my privilege to research that over 210,000 Bersaglieri served in the First World War in 9 regiments. So an absolute amazing force of arms. Again, a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I work with 2 Alpini regiments, the 32 Alpini Engineers, and also the 3 Alpini in Pinilero, if I'm not mistaken. Pinilero, so thank you. So again, wonderful during the First World War, again, amazing service, and fantastic to capture the history, the tradition of this amazing Italian regiment. I'm going to show you one more video. So we have video number 4. The gentleman will, is just popping on. And again, it's just a very brief video that shows the sitting in Milano. And you can see here the traditions, all the accoutrements. It was wonderful to photograph in the mess areas, capturing all this history in a historical setting. And it was a wonderful opportunity to do that. Very worthwhile day. This project has been an exciting part of my career. In 2019, as I mentioned, I'm hoping to expand, to grow. So there are colonels out there looking for portraits and want to be included, regiments who want to be included in this project. I'm hoping to take an expanded version to Rome. I'm also looking for the support of stakeholders. This project so far is self-funded, so this has not received any funding whatsoever, and I've only scratched the surface with this project so far. I hope to hold more sittings, as I mentioned, across Italy, and bring an extensive historical document to Rome of the Italian army in the 21st century. Now, thank you for listening. It's indeed been an honor to speak with you and to speak with people yesterday. Please come and have a look at the project. It's only a small pop-up today, but I'm hoping to do something a great deal on a larger scale in the future. And it's a privilege to show my work in Italy for the first time. Grazie.